What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This episode number 793. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, it's Paul Cheon. Paul, what's going on, bud? How's the week? How's the week been? It's only Tuesday, I guess, but
it's only Tuesday. I can say the weekend probably could have gone a little bit better for me, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And as far as this week goes, a lot of cool and fun things. I will be actually taking a short trip over to Portland on Wednesday.
Oh.
So going to enjoy some of the good eats there. And so will be nice to have a little bit of a reprieve because I've been grinding, making a ton of videos. And so getting a little trip is nice. Nice.
Portland has good food. You, me and Jay went down there a couple of times for Blazers games when you were living up here. And we always had like a good... we way overdid it every time. But,
absolutely. Our entire trip was just built around kind of what are we going to eat and then how are we going to burn time before we go to the actual Blazers game.
Exactly. Yeah. And it turns out talk about basketball and, sports and magic and then go eat again. Well, that's cool. Have a nice little trip up to Portland. And we're going to do this week on the show, we're going to do our draft walkthrough for Aetherdrift. It's a little sooner than we'd normally do it, but Paul and I were kind of itching to do the draft, and it feels like a good time in the format to, again, we use these kind of as a way to show where we're at and go beyond a crack a pack, where, a pack one, pick one, of course, is a very important decision point, but it's interesting how much your prior decisions affect your latter decisions. And that doesn't really come out in a crack a pack, but in a draft walkthrough, it does. So we're going to be doing two drafts today on the show. We're going to do a premier and a traditional on Arena. And if you want to see the video version, it's up on YouTube, on the LR YouTube channel. All of our episodes are, but these ones you actually get to watch the draft and all that. But for audio only listeners, I'll also be updating the packs and our card pools as we go so that you can follow along using just your ears. Before we get into that, though, we want to say thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. We've got a Patreon for a long time for this channel. It's patreon.com/limited resources. And you get a thank you card and a sticker in the mail if you sign up. Thank you for supporting us. We really appreciate it. And we also want to thank Ultimate Guard. They make the best card protection stuff in the business, all the way down to the sleeve level, individual cards, binders, boxes, deck boxes, ways to transfer multiple decks at the same time. They have it all, and it's the best quality stuff on the market. You can go try it out at your local game store. They'll usually have it for sale there, or you can pick it up at your favorite online retailer. Thank you, Ultimate Guard. We do appreciate it. One of the benefits for being a Patreon supporter of us is that you get access to our Patreon feed, which is where we put things like our questions for the Patreon question of the week. This one comes from Nick, who says, I was on the November post with this, but I got pretty good timing right now. All right. Nick says, this fall, I lived out the midlife crisis dad magic dream and spiked an RCQ into an RC to the Pro Tour for my first time in a few weeks. And Nick says, playing constructed, woof. So my question is, I often hear the phrase, well, if I was drafting at the PT, I would blank, thrown around on podcasts, my LGS, online, etc. We say that sometimes. Here, what does that phrase mean to you guys? Is it a heuristic tweak by 5%, a mindset shift on how you enter the draft, a hard commitment to settling coin flips between cards, etc.? I'd love to hear the thought process on that, or if it's just old Magic banter that people say before they give Magic player opinions. Thanks for everything along the way. Wouldn't be living this out without LR. Oh, that's so awesome, Nick. Congratulations. We should look up and see how Nick did at the PT, because this was right before the PT, I think.
Oh,
so yeah.
Nice.
So nice job, Nick. Hopefully you had a great experience at your first Pro Tour. And I think that's so cool that you hit it a little later, than maybe you thought you would. That is such a cool experience. I know for me, Paul, I do mean it when I say that. I do have a different draft style if I'm sitting by myself, with dinner getting ready and I'm going to fire up a draft on Arena versus, like when we used to do the showdowns or when I was playing in GPs, and if I'd make it to day 2 and do the drafts there, I had a much different mindset when there were more significant stakes at play. And it basically meant, that I was going to do my absolute best to have what I felt could be the absolute best deck possible. And that means a few things, but the main thing that it means for me is being disciplined more, being a little bit more conservative. And then also, one of my favorite things to do, particularly a bit later in the format, are like do things like build around a card, or, try to kind of pull something off in a draft that you don't always get to pull off. A card that always comes to mind is like Cruel Ultimatum when it was on the bonus sheet. It's like, okay, it was actually a good card too, but that's a very difficult card to cast in limited, but I'd be like, all right, let's do it. I'm going to take it. Where if I'm at a PT, or, a higher level event for me, I guess the best example would be an Arena Open day 2, something like that. That's the perfect example for me these days, if I ever made a day 2. And, at that point, I'm really trying to tighten up, right? There's times, the 2 best examples, I think for me would be, 1, build-arounds that I know are sketchy. They're not going to be on my radar. Like, I'm just not even doing that. There's been times where I pick up 1/3, pack 3, pick 5, and it's like, hey, it actually fits what I was doing. Great. But not pack 1, pick 1. I'm not going to like try to stake my claim on some niche archetype that may or may not come together and all that. So those go out the door. And then the other ones are, I guess there's technically 3, but the next 2 are very similar to each other. One of them is my mana. I really try to tend after my mana and try to have a solid mana base. I'm not going to go for like maybe I'll just splash this and see what happens. Like, no. I'm going to try to take a dual land. Like, I'm going to do the Paul method with, like if it costs 1 double black, like I'm going to be base black and I'm not going to play a card that's double red, or I'm going to severely discount it or whatever, right? I'm going to really look after that. And then also when it comes to the packs, once I have decided my colors, I'm not speculating as much. If you find me in pack 2, pick 6, and there's like an okay common for my deck, but there's also a really, really good card that could be a signal, and maybe I could go into blue from here. If I'm sitting at home on Arena, I'll probably take the maybe I could go into blue from here because, the card that's going to go in my deck, I'm like, whatever, it's replaceable. But if I'm playing for stakes, I'm like, nah, I'm just going to take the card that goes in my deck and move on with my life. I'm not going to fuss around. So that's kind of how that's a difference for me between doing like a local game store draft or an arena draft versus playing like a day 2 in an arena. What about for you, Paul? What comes to your mind when somebody says, well, if I was drafting at the PT, I would?
Yeah, I think the number one word that comes to my mind when I talk about how I would draft at a pro tour relative to how I would draft just doing a random video, for example, is discipline. That's really all that it comes down to. For the most part, like at this point in the format, we know what's good and we know what's bad. We know what has a really high ceiling but an extremely low floor. There are a lot of cards like that exist. One thing that we can point to in this set is, of course, the cycling payoffs, right? You see a Monument to Endurance and you're like, oh, what if, right? But let's say you see a Monument to Endurance and maybe you see a Stampeding Scurryfoot, which is the best common in the set. It's like, you should probably take the Stampeding Scurryfoot in most instances. But however, if I'm drafting for content or I'm looking to have a little bit of fun, most people are going to take the Monument and they're going to try to live the dream and try to get as much value out of that card to try to build around it as possible. So it's just little things like that, right? You need to stay disciplined. Or let's say you're red-green moving into pack number 2 and you open a double white bomb rare, right? You're just don't take it. Right. But if you're drafting for fun and you had a Veloheart bike in your deck, you think, well, maybe I can pick up a bunch of fixing and get really lucky with my lands and I can try to pull it off. Sure. By all means, if you're doing that in a casual fun setting and you're playing for some gems, you can do that because it's a really sweet, fun, cool rare to play. But if you're playing for stakes, you're playing to try to win $2,000 or do well at a spotlight event or whatever. But staying the course and being disciplined on average will lead to a higher win rate. And that's all you should be thinking about when you're playing in these events, in these high leverage situations. What pick can I make that will give me the highest chance of winning this draft? And that's not necessarily going to be the sweetest pick. there's a difference between the sweetest pick and the best pick. And when you're playing in these high leverage situations, you want to be going for the best pick in a lot of instances. I mean, I have a really good example. Actually, I have a draft. I don't even know if the video is out yet, but pack one, I was mostly one color, but it was pretty clear to me that a second color was open. And so I was going to move in, and it was very clear to me that green was not open. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. Just like if I take a green card in pack two, just pack threes, I'm just going to have a bad time. Pack two, I opened an Aganosaur Rex, and I was like, ooh, that's exciting. I didn't take it. And I took a solid sign, but not nearly as good as a Aganosaur Rex, but I took a solid signpost uncommon in the core color that I knew I was going to be in. And I ended up with a really, really solid deck, and I'm happy with the end result. But it would be really tempting to take the Aganosaur Rex in that spot, just because of the sheer power level of that card. Even if you know that green is not open, you're just going to hope maybe pack two, the green is all going to be great, but you don't know that. And so in an instance like that, I chose to go with the disciplined pick, and that ended up paying off for me. And I think, oftentimes people make too many risky picks in the draft, particularly after they kind of know what their lane is and they see a shiny rare. They're like, oh, but what if? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, I mean, it depends also on the gap in the power level of the cards you're taking in those instances. Like if it's, you're taking a 23rd level common for your color, sure. If you don't need that card in your deck, sure, you can speculate. But outside of that, if it's a solid playable that's in your 2-color combination, like you want to be making the safe, disciplined pick, because I just feel like overall that's going to give you the best shot at doing well in these, situations where you're playing for a Pro Tour slot, you're paying for a top 8, you're paying for all these different things.
Totally. And it's one of those things where like we still maintain our draft style. Like I'll still stay open for the first multiple picks. Yeah. But I like what you said, discipline. I mean, eat your vegetables. That's the bottom line. Like, especially in tough pods, I think that that's the other thing that is unspoken. And I think that when most people say, well, if I was drafting at the PT, they're probably not factoring it in. But like when Paul and I mentioned that, go watch the PT footage of Paul and I last weekend in Chicago. Like those decks are tough. Like they're not good draft decks. You don't look at that and go, wow, if somebody comes away from a PT pod with like what looks like a really good like arena level draft deck, that's a rarity. That's something that like something went weird. Most of them are like our feature drafters, right? Which we watched Javier and Ben, and like their decks were very mediocre because their seats were really tough. Like it wasn't like they could have just, found some insane lane and come away with an amazing deck if they had just been a little more open-minded. It was like these were really tough seats that threw them a lot of curveballs. And that's pretty typical, because people just are going to grab onto something good and hang on to it at the PT level. And, the other thing that I think of in that way is, if you're a good limited player, like you want to keep yourself in the game, right? Like, if you draft a total stinker because you were all over the place and it went off the rails and you just don't have a functional deck or a deck that can really realistically pick up match wins, that's a way to take, your skill and kind of squander it. Where, if I take Paul and I stick in the middle of a PT and I say, Paul, I'm going to draft the deck for you and I'm going to hand it to you and you can go over it and then you're going to play the matches or whatever. Like I could hand Paul a C+ deck, just like an average with maybe just a little bit of an extra bump in it. And if Paul comes back and goes, hey, I went 2-1, I'd be like, nice. If he gets lucky and goes 3-0 or gets a little unlucky and goes 1-2, that's within the realm as well. But if I hand him, an F, if I hand him a D- deck, it's like, well, he's not a miracle worker, right? Like he's a very good technical player, but you got to give him something to work with. And if you're handing the deck to yourself, you want to make sure that you keep yourself in the game as well. I looked it up, Paul. Nick had a nice finish. He finished 177th out of 350 something, putting him directly in the middle of the pack. I mean, seriously, like there's 348 players. Mm-hmm. So he's like almost exactly in that middle ground. He took home $750 for his troubles. And that's 21 match points as well. So nice job, Nick. Congratulations.
So made day 2.
He made day 2.
21 match points. All right, cool.
which is really, really cool. So great job, Nick. And I hope you enjoyed yourself at the PT. Okay, so there was an Arena Open on the weekend. And even though we're about to do 2 drafts on Arena, not all of us got to draft on Arena. I guess I'll start off. I had a really busy day, and I woke up a little early so that I could do a sealed run before I had basketball and then a bunch of stuff to do during the day. And then I knew I was going to have a chance to fire it up later, but it would be probably 10 p.m. before I could start jamming again. So I got up and I did a sealed, and I had a good one actually. It was blue-green, and I splashed a little bit of red. And the deck was actually really good, but I ended up bubbling. I went 6-3, and I'm like, oh man, that would have been really nice to just check the box for the rest of the day and not have to, and I for sure made some mistake. It was one of those ones where I had one of those games where I took on unnecessary risk in retrospect, and got burned for it. My opponent played, man, my brain's not working. The 3/3 haste flyer that gets lifelink if you have max speed.
Yeah, Streaking Oil Gorger.
And hit me with it. And they had just gotten to 5 mana. And we were in a race situation. And so, but I could outrace it. So I attacked with everything. But I could have left something back numbers wise and still come up with some lethal the next turn. But I didn't. I was just okay, I'm just going to jam. And then because they didn't have me dead on board. And so, I thought, they were in, a color like black, red or something where I'm not really expecting a combat trick, or, I couldn't play around the X-Spell combat trick, etc. But they just played another Streaking Oil Gorger, which that's perfectly within the realm, right? They just played one. They had just gotten to 5 mana, and that did swing the damage race back in their favor. And I'm just I could have thought about it for a minute and just been could they have another haste creature? And the answer is, yeah, actually they could. Normally I wouldn't play around something like that because it's so narrow, but I don't think I had to give up very much to do it. And it was definitely in the realm of possibility that they had another one, since they had just played one and it's a commonly played common, and they just got to 5 mana and they killed me. And I just had that feeling, I just had that, did I get a little too ahead of myself on that one? I don't think I needed to do that. And I lost. So that was fine. And then I had my day, and then I came back, and then the next sealed I did another 6/3, and I'm like, oh Oof. Man. And then I did a 3/3, and then maybe I did another one that I can't remember that I definitely lost on. And then I did one more run, but it was already 12:30 or something when I started. And I ended up being 2-2 with the deck, and it was 2 a.m. and I was just kind of what am I doing with the problem is that at that point, even if you qualify, Paul and I both live on the West Coast. So now you have to get up at 7:30 or whatever, but it's already 2 something. And now, it's getting kind of ugly for your Sunday. But at any rate, I didn't win anyway. And so I was well, I actually technically could have taken one more run, but I showed great restraint, Paul, and I said, I'm going to go to bed. That is
more restraint than I had in my Bloomburrow run, where Arena had to cut me off because I played till 3 a.m, and that's when they cut you off. And the draft for day 2 starts at 6 a.m. So I was well, if I play 3 a.m., maybe I make it basic. I can do it on no sleep, but I think it was actually a good thing that Arena shut me off there, because I was on full blown tilt at that time. But that was Bloomburrow. For me this time around, I did make it to day 2. I did not pull a Cheon, if you will.
Nice.
I went 5-3 my first attempt. Then I had some pretty bad pulls. 1-3 my second one, which was very bad. My next one, I had a really fun cycling deck. But turns out a fun deck doesn't necessarily lead to a winning deck. So I did not do well there. And then I got there on my 4th try. I opened 5 green rares, which is exactly where you want to be.
Wow.
And I went 7-0 with a Debris Beetle, Thundering Broodwagon, Lumbering World Wagon. This deck was just outrageous. Just 17 solid green cards and then a smattering of decent black cards. So that got me into day 2. And then day 2... I felt like my first pick, I did everything I tell people not to do.
Oh, no.
And this was pack 1, pick 1, and it was really just between 2 rares. It was Winter, I don't know the full name, but the blue-black artifact rare. It's like a 3/2, and you can exhaust to like basically wrath the board. And by that point, I was having a lot of success drafting various artifact decks. So I was like, well, I think I'm going to take this winter just because I'm comfortable drafting the artifact decks. It's a pretty solid card, right? But the other option was also a rare, and it was a Bulwark Ox. And Bulwark Ox is not only, a solid creature in its own right, it's a single colored card, which means in any color combination that I end up in, I have a far higher likelihood that the card ends up in my deck. And so I think in hindsight, I shouldn't have taken the multicolor card there, and I probably should have taken the Bulwark Ox. The thing that made me not want to take the Bulwark Ox was kind of a predisposition to not want to be white. I was just like, I just don't think white is very strong, even though I could have probably guessed that white would have been open, given that nobody wants to be white, right? So I should have probably just in that instance taken the card that has a much higher chance to go in my deck that's already a good card. And so I ended up taking the winter, and then white was very open. So I ended up being white-black, which is fine. I got like a late Embalmed Descendant in pack 1, and I was like, all right, this is where I need to be. But the big problem here was because I passed the Bulwark Ox, pack 2 was awful. I got nothing.
Even for white? Oh, man.
Right. The person I passed to, they could have, it's possible they opened a white rare and I wouldn't have seen any white cards anyways. But the fact that whatever they opened and then I passed them a Bulwark Ox and they almost certainly took the Bulwark Ox meant pack 2 was just abysmal. Like I didn't see a Ride's End, right? That's kind of the type of card that you're llooking for. I was hoping for any late Embalmed Descendants or anything like that. I just didn't see anything. And then pack 3 ended up being fine because I drafted my seat. But by not taking that Bulwark Ox, it kind of cascaded into having a really poor pack 2. And unfortunately, I ended up going 2-2. I actually, the two people that I lost to both made it into the second draft. I think the first person I lost to, they went 4-0, instantly joined my Patreon, and then messaged everybody telling everybody that they beat me.
No way.
I was like, just don't spoil the results, please. This is going to be a video. And then I played Circovitz.
You played Circo.
Yeah, I was 1-1. And by the way, this is really weird. They don't match you based on your record, because I was right? 1-1. Circovitz was 1-0 with a really awesome Esper Artifacts deck.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so I got paired against somebody who was 1-0. Which is a little bit unfortunate, right? Because I feel like I should play against somebody who has a loss. And so he just destroyed me with just this Esper Artifacts deck that had Mendicant, Curse Cloth Wrappings, Winter, just kind of had a lot of these really great artifact cards. And it wasn't even close. And then I won my last match, but of course that was an inconsequential match because you need to go 3-1 or better in these drafts to do better. So, just kind of going back on that draft, I think that was the single biggest mistake that I made. Just because, I mean, obviously this is kind of almost a hindsight thing, but not really, in the sense that I just feel like as far as good fundamental theoretical drafting goes, I should have just taken the monocolored card. Even if Winter is a slightly better card overall, it's a gold card, right? And first picking a gold card, if you want to first pick a gold card over a solid monocolored card, it needs to be significantly better. Yeah. And I just didn't know that it was enough better there for me to make that pick.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really tough pick though, Paul. Like you also were picking an archetype in many ways, right? Like
sure.
You were wanting to go a direction that the Bulwark Ox doesn't go. Yeah. That's a very difficult pick there. And it's really unfortunate, about you ended up being in white, as solidly in white as well. I mean, that's a tough one.
But it happens. My opponent's decks were great. The first opponent, just like I had a black-white aggro deck with not much late game, and they just played Spectacular Pilot both games. Oh yeah. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm not going to beat that. And then, like I said, Circovitz had an awesome artifacts deck. So I just feel like even if I got some cards, it might have still been out of my control based on my opponents. But one thing that I do know now, which I talked to some other folks, is it might be in your best interest to fire off your drafts immediately. Like, so 6 a.m. if you can, because then there's a lower chance that you get to play against, people who have, like, if I lose my first round, I'm probably going to be paired against somebody who lost a first. I don't know. There's some metagaming there, but at the same time, I'm West Coast guy. Like, getting up to do a 6 a.m. draft also might just not be reasonable. Like I might not be playing my best, right? So,
totally. I always feel like if I win my first round in a day 2 arena draft, I feel like I got away with something because I'm like so fuzzy, like I'm not really awake yet. It kind of takes either a win or a loss to kind of get my blood flowing. All right. Speaking of wins and losses, Paul, let's get into this.
All right.
And open up something amazing. We'll start with a premier draft. Oh, it looks like things reset. Nice.
All right. So this is a ranked draft, correct?
This is ranked. Yes. It looks like I am gold now or something. I feel like I'm on Delta Airlines again. Okay. Pack one, pick one. Let's get in here. Our rares, we have 2 of them. We have Vin Wixit, Verbose Host, and Full Throttle. Uncommons, Kelorna, Momentum Breaker, Outpace Oblivion are the uncommons. And then notable commons, there's a Hazard of the Dunes.
Yeah, so to me, it's almost like a color preference thing, but it really just comes down to, I think, Hazard of the Dunes, Momentum Breaker, or Outpace Oblivion. Green and black are better colors than red, right? So that's kind of something that you can also consider as well. If you want to avoid green, which a lot of people seem to be doing, it's fine to just perhaps consider going black instead. Outpace Oblivion is probably a slightly stronger card than Momentum Breaker, just because it just kills anything. But Momentum Breaker is black, so I think going any direction here, you can't go too wrong.
My gut would be Outpace Oblivion here. I think.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's fine.
Keeps us out of the fight, and I do think it is better than the Breaker.
Yeah. No, that's completely fine. I think not taking Hazard of the Dunes or first picking a green card is fine, where you go, you know what? If green gets passed to me and it's clear that it's open, we can go in that direction. Okay,
pack 1, pick 2. Explosive Getaway is the rare, and it's still here. There's also Air Response Unit, another Momentum Breaker, and a Point the Way. And then out of the commons, there's a Bounce Off. There's a, Howler's Heavy, Pedal to the Metal. What's your experience with Explosive Getaway? Is it on your radar here?
No, I don't like this card in general. Just red. First of all, it's a red-white card. Also, it's a red-white control card, which also doesn't make a lot of sense. So the only place I like this is if I'm a green-white deck splashing red or a green-red deck splashing white. So I don't really like the card just because it's a bad fit for the archetype. If it was like a black-white card, I'd consider it. I think I just take Momentum Breaker. We get to start with 2 Start Your Engines cards, and that could potentially set us up for a really nice Rakdos deck.
Yeah, the only other black and red cards in the pack are the Pedal to the Metal and a Grim Javelineer, which neither of those are, desirable. So yeah, we'll go with Momentum Breaker. Our first pick was Outpace Oblivion, and now we have Momentum Breaker. Next up, here we go. We got a rare, actually 2 of them. They're both black. We've got Bloodghast and Gas Guzzler. And then looking down the line here, there's a Streaking Oil Gorger that maybe we could look to wheel or something. There's also an Amonkhet Raceway, the Start Your Engines, one of the Start Your Engines lands. But the Gas Guzzler is nice here, right?
Yeah, this just seems like a really, really great start here to a potential Rakdos speed deck. But just being able to go Momentum Breaker, starting with a Momentum Breaker and a Gas Guzzler here is just really nice. This is just a really start to a good black base. We're still open to figuring out what our second color is. And Bloodghast is just not something that you can consider. Although I will say, if we table it, it is a nice combo with Gas Guzzler.
It is a nice combo, and it does have some utility in this set as far as crewing things goes and things like that.
Right.
Also of note, no green cards getting passed to us here. We had a Broken Wings, then a Silken Strength. This is pack 1, pick 4, and by the way, I'll just note really quickly, the only actual green card is Bestow Greatness. So there is some merit to staying out of the green fight here. All right, we've got in our current colors, we have Calaxion, the 7/2, we have a Locust Spray, and we have an Endrider Catalyzer. There's also a Ripclaw Wrangler. Other notable cards, the rare is Caradora. There's a Cloudspire Sky Cycle. There's not really much here.
Yeah, this is a pretty weak pack, but I've actually been reasonably happy with the Endrider Catalyzer, just in Rakdos specifically, just because you are looking to get to maximum speed. So just being able to play something cheap, it's really nice when you play, for example, like a turn 1 Engine Rat, and you play this on turn 2, and then you just get to max speed really easily.
Whoa.
And that'll be really nice as long as we get the good uncommon max speed payoffs.
Nice pack here. Pack 1, pick 5. We did take the catalyzer there. There's an engine rat, a siphon fuel, and a crash and burn in this pack.
Yeah, so I mean, it does feel like this is kind of our lane here. And out of those cards, I think I would rank it Engine Rat 1, Crash and Burn 2, Siphon Fuel 3, just because Siphon Fuel is basically a Crash and Burn that costs 1 more mana. But I think Engine Rat is pretty clearly the pick here. Just an excellent creature, one of Black's best commons, and works really, really nicely even in a speed shell because you attack and they just have to trade up, right? There's not that many other 1-drops in the format that can block profitably in terms of mana. So you just play this and they're like, ugh, like I guess I block.
Totally. Pack 1, pick 6. There's another Vin Wixit here, by the way. Not much. There's a Tyrox, which is the 4/1. And there's a Magnifican Artillerist. There's no black cards. There is a Jungle Hollow. There's a Ride's End. There's a Broadcast Rambler. Somehow all the white cards made it here, but
yeah. So this could be. I think this is a point where we could speculate and probably take one of these 2 white commons in Ride's End or Broadcast Rambler. Tyrox is just so far below what I want. Right. Ride's End is probably the better option. Right, it's just a bet. I think it's white's best common. So I think we can take this here just because we haven't seen a million red cards, but we're not losing out on anything by taking the Rides End out of that pack.
Next pack is pack 1, pick 7. We have a Wickerfolk Indomitable. The card's been unimpressive. There's a Rocky Roads and a Prowcatcher Specialist in red. I like the Specialist. It's fine.
Yeah, it's a fine 2-mana play. I think generally I like cards like the Endrider Catalyzer more, but hey, it's a 2-drop, and this type of deck doesn't really care too much what the 2-drop is, especially if you're just looking to be aggressive and curving out. Like you just take whatever you get. So
okay, so we have Engine Rat, Gas Guzzler, Momentum Breaker, Endrider Catalyzer, Prowcatcher Specialist, and an Outpace Oblivion. Really low curve. Oh, and a pack 1, pick 8 Engine Rat.
Yeah, that's another Engine Rat. Will note that is a really late Gallant Strike too, so that's just something to mentally keep note of. Yeah, so white is open is just going to be a pretty common thing that we see, but I think given what we've seen, black also seems reasonably open, so I think it's just better to take the black card here. If Engine Rat wasn't in here, I would take the Gallant Strike and then just still stay kind of open. But I think Engine Rat's just a pick here.
It's just too good. All right, our wheel pack is here, and we've wheeled Risky Shortcut or Mutant Surveyor. There's also that Full Throttle at rare that isn't really playable.
I like Mutant Surveyor.
Same.
It's it's just a really solid card. It's just really hard to block. In certain, like I like this less in Golgari, where you're just dealing a bunch of damage and you have a lot of stuff to do with your mana. Rakdos doesn't have as much. So you play this thing and you attack, and your opponents rarely have good blocks. And this just allows you to get to maximum speed quicker. And then if we do pick up, Risen Necro Regent or the tutor make a 2/2 zombie card, then this card just helps enable that plan even better.
Pack 1, pick 10. Nothing. There's just green and white cards here. I guess I'll take a white card. Interface Ace or Air Response Unit.
Yeah, maybe Air Response Unit. I don't know. They're both pretty mediocre.
We'll rare draft an uncommon here.
Yeah.
Next pack. Okay, there's a Scrap Compactor. Pack 1, pick 11. There's also another Interface Ace, a Spot Cycle Scouter, and a Silken Strength. So just a bunch of jank. So I'll update the packs as we go. But right now we've got double Engine Rat, Gas Guzzler. We did real Calaxion. Yeah, sure. Our curve is insane. We've got such a low curve. We don't have anything above 3 mana right now. And we've got, I'm going to put the Scrap Compactor on the board for now. And then there's just junk to finish the pack. Oh, I took a Tortoise last. Somebody took a land over it. I'm sorry, buddy. But yeah, we've got double Engine Rat, Gas Guzzler, Momentum Breaker, Endrider Catalyzer, Prowcatcher Specialist, Calaxion maybe, Mutant Surveyor, and Outpace Oblivion. As we go to the next pack, pack 2, pick 1. And in our colors, we've got Shafet Archfiend, Fuel the Flames, Wreckage, Wickerfolk, and there's also a Gilded Goda. The rare here is kind of interesting, actually. It's Otchik Emerald Radian, which only takes a single green, Paul. There's also a Broodheart engine in this pack.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I mean earlier when we talked about if I was drafting the PT, right? Like if you want to have fun, you can take the out chick, but red black can really splash that easily anyways.
Right.
Wreckage Wickerfolk is also one of black's best commons, and it's really nice way to just get to maximum speed. That's what I would probably take. Another card here to look at actually would be that Glory Heath Lynx, which is one of the best uncommons in the set.
Yeah.
And obviously that would be extremely nice to have if we wanted to move into white. And that seemed kind of open, but the safer pick here, I think, is a Wickerfolk because we are 100% in black.
That's right. And so we're going to take the Wreckage Wickerfolk. This is discipline, right? This is, pretending as if we're drafting day 2 in an arena open. I mean, we can also have a more typical video draft for Paul, or one where I'm just drafting on my own. But this one, we'll take it more seriously. Pack 2, pick 2. More white cards. There's a Voyager Glide car and a tune-up, but in our colors, there's a Risen Necro Regent. There's a nice Start Your Engines payoff. A Marauding Mako, Grim Javelineer, and a Dynamite Diver.
Yeah, Necro Regent is everything this deck wants. Every time I play against Rakdos, this is probably the card that I'm the most fearful of. They're on max speed. It's kind of a close game. It's turn 5. I go, please don't play the Necro Regent.
Totally.
They always play the Necro Regent.
Totally. This is one of the only really good Start Your Engines payoffs. The rest of them are minor bumps, which are fine. It's good, but this one's actually good. Wow. Pack 2, pick 3. Detention Chariot, Tune-Up, Broodheart Engine. There's also Rocketeer Boost Buggy. Those are some nice uncommons lined up. But for us, not a whole lot, I guess. There's a Deathless Pilot, a Dynamite Diver, and a Burner Rocket. Yeah,
so this pack is so bad to the point where I might consider speculating on the Detention Chariot just because our red actually isn't very strong, right? And you can certainly still end up in black-white. I know we took the Wreckage Wickerfolk over the Glory Heath Lynx, but we don't know if we're going to be red or white, and we know for sure we were going to be black. Right. So we take the Discipline pick there, but I think here, because we're not really losing anything, right? Like Dynamite Diver is a card you get 10th, 11th pick. Same thing with the Deathless Pilot. I think I like speculating there on the Chariot. It's not going to work 80% of the time, but it's got enough power where you take it, I think.
Pack 2, pick 4. There's a Gastel Raider.
Yeah.
So if we know that we're in black, then, that's a tempting pick. If we are in red, then there's a Fuel the Flames and an End-Rider Catalyzer, so nothing super exciting. If we were in white, there's a Daring Mechanic. Again, not really exciting. For white cards, by the way, we did take that one Rides End. We technically have an air response unit. So really, though, we have Detention Chariot and Rides End. So we just take the Raider here, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, if it's a good black card, we take it. The real tricky part is later if we have the choice between a good red or a white card.
Yeah, totally. So let's take a look at our next pack. We've got, for us, a Maximum Overdrive. That's one of the better black commons. There is also a Crash and Burn here.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of in the market for another good removal spell. I feel like you get the overdrives a little bit later. So I can consider this is close. This is actually closer than it seems, but I can't see.
I think I would take Overdrive here. My reasoning is our curve is so low. We've just got stupid End-Rider Catalyzer, Gas Guzzler and stuff. So I think people are going to be blocking those. So we'll take it. I agree. It's totally close. Also, maybe the tiebreaker is that it keeps us solidified in black. Pack 2, pick 6. There's a Grim Javelineer and a Proudcatcher Specialist. For us,
probably just take the first Javelineer here. This card's actually pretty annoying.
Yeah,
you play it on curve, it just makes your dinky creatures kind of trade up and gives you marginal value. It's not a fantastic card, but also just kind of keeps us in black as well.
All right, we'll take the Javelineer. Our curve is still remarkably low. We have all 3s, 2s, and 1s, and then the Necro Regent. We have nothing that costs 4. Next pack up. There's another Grim Javelineer, there's a Dynamite Diver, and there's somehow another Calaxion, which we definitely don't want.
Yeah, I could. This you can go either way with the Javelineer and the Dynamite Diver. We have 3 1-drops already.
Yeah, I think I would take the Javelineer.
Sure. Yeah, that's
again, the
totally
Diver,
fine.
If we don't end up in red, I mean, the Diver's certainly not a reason to be there. Pack 2, pick 8, our last one out of Pack 2 before we wheel. We got a Haunted Hellride, Cloudspire Coordinator. There's a Windscarred Crag.
I think I'd probably just take Collision Course out of this pack.
Sure.
It can be a removal spell, and it's weird. We're not seeing a ton of good red.
No, we're not.
We saw a crash and burn, but that's kind of it. So it's just kind of an odd.
We wheeled the
pack here.
Archfiend.
We did wheel the Archfiend, although I don't love it in
It's not
Rakdos.
very good in our
It
deck.
kills all your creatures.
Yeah.
So I think this could be an instance where we either take the Sloth or the Goda. Just kind of
there's an
depending on.
unswerving Sloth and a Gilda. I'm gonna take the Sloth.
Okay,
Like now, our white is almost. It might even be better already than our red.
Our red is not very good. It literally
Right.
just has Outpace Oblivion.
Right.
So, yeah.
Light Shield Parry or Dynamite Diver. Or Bright
I like
Field
the Dynamite Diver better.
I'll
I
take
just don't
it.
ever want to play Light Shield Parry in my deck.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Okay, well, pack 2, pick 11. We did pick up a tune-up.
Yeah, I think that's a decent speculative card because you don't want to take Brightfield Mustang ever. And let's say we pick up another Detention Chariot.
Right.
Then all of a sudden it gets kind of interesting. Although here now we take the Endrider Catalyzer. So, this is really interesting,
Lagrin.
right? Yeah. We there's a lagger in there, but we're basically kind of black and we're just trying to figure out whether or not we should be red or white. It's kind of close between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it will come down to kind of the signpost cards or rares that we see in the last pack.
Yeah, let's open something sweet to solidify us one way or the other. That would be really nice.
Far Fortune.
Yeah, Far Fortune. This is funny. Arena wants us to be red. It gave us a Count on Luck, the card that costs triple red. There's also Wretched Doll, Fuel the Flames, Mutant Surveyor, Maximum Overdrive, a Broadcast Rambler. There's a Clamorous Ironclad if we did go into red. So if we take a black card, it's either Wretched Doll or Maximum Overdrive. I guess we would just take Maximum Overdrive.
Well, our our turn 2 situation, I think I'd rather just take a creature here.
Yeah, how many creatures do we have? Oh, we have 16, but I also have
16, but it's
two extra
spread
colors
between the three colors.
Yeah. Okay,
and the
so
Wretched Doll.
Doll.
I'm kind of looking at the Wretched Doll here.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the Overdrive as well, but this is just a solid creature, kind of cruise everything. And if we don't end up in red, we're going to have a trouble with 2-mana creatures, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we end up in black-white, we actually don't have a million 2-mana creatures.
Okay, we got a Crypt Caller Chariot.
Yeah, which doesn't do too much.
I think we're doing much
Crypt
with
Caller
that.
Chariot needed to be a blue or red rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's a Shafet Archfiend, which we talked about earlier. There is another Outpace Oblivion, and then there's a Chiton Gravestalker if we want to just take the black card here. But we're not really doing this thing, right?
No, that's more of a Golgari card. This just feels like Outpace Oblivion and us perhaps leaning more into potentially being in black-red unless we see something outrageous. Let's say we see an Embalmed Descendant or something, then we could consider moving back. But yeah, this feels like an Outpace Oblivion here.
Yeah, at least it gives us 2 good red cards.
Wow, what is a Mammoth doing there?
Yeah, there's an Autarch Mammoth and a Molt Tender pack 3, pick 3, which remember, green has been very dry this draft. You notice I haven't really said much. For us, there is another Wreckage Wickerfolk, though. And I mean, that's kind of where you want to be in this type of deck.
Absolutely. I think
we'll take it. White cards, excuse me. There's a Cloudspire Captain, which we don't like. There's a tune-up, which is okay. But again, nothing to really pull us in a direction. And we're just going to take, Captain Howler is a good card, but it's way off for us. But, stuff that's in range in our 3 colors, Wreckage Wickerfolk's the best option by a lot.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, these black cards are kind of the easy ones. It's the red and the white that are interesting. Pack 3, pick 4. There's another Wreckage Wickerfolk. Oh, there's the Spire Mech Cycle, Paul.
Yeah. We don't really have any mounts or vehicles.
No.
It's probably just another Wickerfolk, but we have a gazillion 2-drops now.
We certainly do. Our ability to get to max speed is like almost trivial at this point.
Right.
Like we only have the one really great payoff, but we do have a few others.
We need like Hour of Victory and cards of that nature. Now I kind of wish that we took the Maximum Overdrive, but let's hope we can get. Whoa!
Ooh,
what?
Wow. Okay, perfect.
This is a nuts
perfect.
Pack 5.
Yeah. Pack 3, pick 5. There's a Glory Heath Lynx if we wanted to go white. There's a Grim Bauble just to check the box on black. And there's a freaking Lightning Strike here if we stay in red.
Yeah, this is a really good pack. I think Grim Bauble is probably the best card. It's similar to Lightning Strike, except you also get that nice Surveil option as well and just let you double spell a bunch.
It's also in our primary color.
It's also in our primary color. But yeah, that was a late Lynx. There we
Paul,
go.
We did it. Pack 3, pick 6. We got another Risen Necro region. We asked for it and we got it. Oh my God, there's another Wreckage Wicker Folk here. Did people not read that one? That could be our fourth one.
Yeah, black certainly seems very, very open here, and we're just kind of using red as a way to supplement the cards that we have. It does feel like we're probably going to be black-red. The 2 Outpace Oblivions are probably better than whatever else we have.
That's funny. Right when I started moving white cards out, we opened Pack 3, Pick 7, which is Ketramos, which is like not really playable, but looks like an amazing card, right? It's like mythic and gold and all that. There's a Deathless Pilot and a Burner Rocket.
I guess the Rocket. I feel like we have more than enough 2-drops here, and we have nothing to crew.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to play just rare drafted.
Yeah.
Pack 3, Pick 8, nothing except for a Night Market.
Yeah, Night Markets.
There's a Pace Setter Paragon in red, but we're not.
Yeah,
it's not where we're
Leonin Surveyor, I guess, if we were black-white.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're at 24 cards plus the Night Market here, so our going.
Yes,
we wheeled the Maximum Overdrive for Paul.
There we go. I told you, people don't respect that card.
You were right. Yeah, because you were saying
the card is very good.
Yeah,
but people just don't.
Because we opened this one, but the prior pack we had one pick 5, and Paul was like, I want to pick it up later. Now we get it pick 9. So I guess.
What is that Scurryfoot doing in this pack?
Holy, there's a pack 3 pick 10 Stampeding Scurryfoot.
So you know what happens a lot, by the way, in this format?
What?
Is because everybody starts out taking a bunch of green cards, and then a bunch of people jump ship because green is not open. And then you get these weird pack 3s where you start seeing green cards again.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Pack 3, pick 11. There's really nothing here. I'll just grab a land or something.
I think we can cut the Burner Rocket too, probably.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, this one, we go over the build. Oh, there's another Grim Javelin here. I'll put it in just for...
And the Calaxion can probably go.
Oh, poor Calaxion.
I think Javelineer is just a better card.
7 Deuce suited.
7 Deuce suited.
He's out of here, though. Okay. So we've got 42 cards right now. I'm going to read them off and then we'll make two more cuts. And just for reference, this is 19 creatures. So like when, I'll often check that just because like I kind of just want to get a quick glance at how many creatures I have. And when I see 19, like I'm mostly looking to cut 2 creatures at this point, unless one of my spells is like way worse. So 1-drops, there are 5. We have 2 Engine Rat, a Gas Guzzler, a Grim Bauble, and currently a Dynamite Diver. I'm going to move the Dynamite Diver into the maybe pile. Reasoning being that, you do want this thing to come down in turn 1, and we're going to lean our mana pretty heavily towards black here. So that could be a card that we want to cut. Also, it's a relatively low impact card. 2s, we've got 2 Maximum Overdrive, a Momentum Breaker, 3 copies of Wreckage Wicker Folk. That is nice. A Wretched Doll, 2 Endrider Catalyzer, and 2 Prowcatcher Specialists. I'm going to move one of the Endrider, or I guess both of the Endrider Catalyzers over. Not saying that we're cutting them, just, these are the cards that my brain would be considering. Number 3, our 3-drops, Gastel Raider, currently 3 Grim Javelineers, so I'll move those over as well. We probably want 1 or maybe 2, but probably not 3. A Mutant Surveyor, and 2 Outpace Oblivion. That is nice. Like, Outpace Oblivion in this deck is really, really good. Somehow we ended up with no 4s, just didn't get a 4-drop, but we do have 2 Risen Necro Regent. Right now we have a Night Market in here. I guess I'll start there, and then 9 Swamps and 7 Mountains. Would you run a Night Market in the deck?
I believe I would. I think it's still it's kind of like, would you run an Evolving Wilds in your 2-color deck?
And usually you do. We are
and
1-drop
cycles
heavy
too.
Yeah, and this one cycles too.
We are 1-drop heavy, and honestly, with our curve, it's not crazy to also consider playing a 16-land deck here.
Definitely.
Look at if you hit the deck box, like it'll show us our mana curve. And our average casting cost is 2.3, which is outrageously low. And
that's actually
it's not
just
like
too low. But
yeah, and it's not like we have a gazillion mana sinks either. We'll note that there is a cool interaction. Dynamite Diver plus Grim Javelineer is kind of cool, where you attack with the Dynamite Diver and it's got 2 power, and then if they block, it dies as a 2-power creature, and then you can deal 2 damage to something. So
I
that
thought
is
it
a
just
nice.
did 1.
Isn't it power? Oh no, never mind.
It's just
never
1,
mind.
yeah.
Never
But that
mind.
still is a
I thought it was
reasonable
power.
combo because it would trade
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
3 toughness thing.
No. I miscounted. I effects like that. I guess I'm
I
playing
know.
too much standard.
Dude, they
and
go
I'm
back and
thinking
forth
power.
all the time. Yeah, there's a mouse that cares, right? The
Yeah.
stupid whatever mouse. Anyway, we're not talking about constructed, Paul. That's shame on you.
I'd probably look to cut one of the 2s. Do you like the Proudcatcher Specialist more? I think I like Endrider Catalyzer more, but
Yeah,
it's pretty close.
I would cut Dynamite Diver, and I would cut either one of the Javelineers or one of these, either Endrider Catalyzer or Proudcatcher Specialist. Given that we picked up the second Risen Necro region and Start Your Engines is definitely on the menu for us, I would probably cut a Specialist.
Yeah, that seems totally fine. And the thing is, yeah, if this is more of a, we have too many 2-drops anyways. And so that's probably the point in the curve where we're looking to cut things. Whereas at 3, we only have like 4 things to do.
Now, if I wanted to cut a land, which I agree with you, I think we do. Like, let's say I cut the Night Market or one of the, or not the night. Let's just cut a basic. Sure, I'll cut a swamp for now.
Okay.
Whatever. I'm not. I just want to see what it looks like. We would need to then put one of these cards back, so the Dynamite Diver could be back on the menu. That's the card I want the most. It's just the color consideration that makes me a little hesitant.
Right, but if we're going to go 8-7-1 with the Night Market, I don't think it's too bad.
But would you actually go 9-6-1 without it? Like.
Right. But then what would we play instead? Just another 2-mana creature?
We have 18 black mana symbols and 6 red.
Right. Yeah, that makes more sense, actually. I would rather lean heavier on black, cut that, and play an extra swamp, cut a mountain, and then just play. I see what you did there.
Is he going to make it back in?
I'm not the biggest fan of that creature in general, but like you can go.
So can I still play the Diver?
You can, but it's just not as exciting. But we also don't have double black cards, but we do have lots of black cards we want to play turn 1. So it's just like it's like little. It's very minimal here.
I don't want to play Klaxion or Ripclaw Wrangler. Those are our only 2 black cards that we could put in. I guess.
Right.
Is a Scrap Compactor something that we're interested in?
No, if we're getting down to the place where we're looking to consider Scrap Compactor, because we have 2 Outpace Oblivions, 2 Maximum Overdrives, and a Grim Bauble, and then we also have 2 Engine Rats to help us trade with bigger things.
Yeah,
and I don't think we're like Scrap Compactor is not a good card if you're looking to it's got the flexibility, but if you spend 4 mana to deal 3 damage to something, that's pretty bad. So I'd rather just play almost anything else. Because, Dynamite Diver is 1 mana to deal 2 damage to something, right?
Yeah. So if we do keep in the Dynamite Diver, then would we also keep the Proudcatcher Specialist if we went for 16 lands here?
Well, this is 15 now, so we need to add a land.
Oops.
Yeah.
There we go. I went a little hard.
Yeah. This looks totally. Yeah, this looks fine. I think you can make the argument where you cut the Dynamite Diver, add the Specialist, and then just go up a swamp. But I think this is also completely fine.
Okay, well, we'll go with this one. So here's our final deck. Yeah. It's 16 lander on 8 swamps, 7 mountains, and a Night Market. And then at the ones, we've got 2 Engine Rat, a Gas Guzzler, a Grim Bauble, and a Dynamite Diver. At 2s, we've got 2 Maximum Overdrive, a Momentum Breaker, 3 Wreckage Wickerfolk, a Wretched Doll, 2 Endrider Catalyzer to get the engines running, and then a Proudcatcher Specialist. And then 3s, we have Gastel Raider. Nice. And then 3 Grim Javelineer. That is going to do work with our curve. And then a Mutant Surveyor, 2 Outpace Oblivion, and then we have the 2 Risen Necro Regents to kind of clean up the mess.
Yeah, what does the Gas Guzzler say again? Can you highlight over that? I'm just curious what you actually can sacrifice. Is it just any non-land permanent?
Sacrifice another creature or vehicle.
Okay, cool. I was wondering if you could sack like Grim Baubles and Outpace Oblivions, but it doesn't look like you can.
Also, interesting note here, Paul, no vehicles.
No vehicles,
nope.
None.
Didn't have it.
Not a ton of great ones, to be honest, that you're too happy playing, right? So it just, a lot of the good vehicles are in the other colors, I think.
Okay, let's jump into a traditional draft now. Sometimes these take a minute to fire, but it looks like we've got 7 in the queue already.
Yeah, I think black white might have been slightly more open. And so that is definitely the other direction that we could have headed. It was just really weird because the first good white card we saw was like pick 6 of pack 1. And, we could have made a couple of choices differently, and maybe we could have ended up with a slightly better deck. We could have had like 2 Glory Heath Links, I think.
Right.
Or something along those lines.
The hard part about that situation is that we were taking black cards in those picks.
Right, so we still have playables.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like we were still building the base of our deck out, and they weren't quite as good as the white cards, but we just didn't know if we'd be in white. If we were taking red cards over white cards there, I think that that's a mistake, because white definitely seemed more open.
Yeah.
But we don't want to take for granted, right, that like we ended up in black. We ended up in black because we took those black cards over those white cards, at least in part.
Yeah. Yeah. And our deck still just ended up being totally solid, right? This is just like you kind of try to read the draft. How good is that deck,
actually?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just fine. We have the 2 Risen Necroregents. We got a good curve. We have tricks and some removal. So that formula can always get you 4 or 5 wins probably. So that's kind of where I would put this deck, probably like a 5-win deck.
So 4 or 5 for Marshall, 6 or 7 for Paul. I get it. I see.
Probably not 7. There's a lot of busted rares in this format, but maybe true. 6.
Yeah, we got no spin outs.
Yeah.
All right, we are queued up and ready for our next draft. So pack 1, pick 1, Explosive Getaway, Rangers Refueler, another Klaxion, Fang Guardian, and Cloudspire Sky Cycle are the rares and uncommons. There's a Broadcast Rambler and a Stampeding Scurryfoot at common.
Give me that Rangers Refueler,
Can we
baby.
Refuel?
I would love to gas up. Now, this card obviously is at its best in like a blue-green exhaust deck. But the thing is, this card is just pretty solid just by itself.
It is.
And if you can just find 2 or 3 other exhaust cards, then this card becomes excellent. So I think this is just the payoff card that you want. This doesn't necessarily put you in blue-green. This is just a good blue card to play in any deck.
Yeah, 1 in a blue, 3/3 vehicle, crew 2. Whenever you activate an exhaust ability, draw a card. And it has its own exhaust ability for it becomes an artifact creature with a +1/+1 counter on it, and then you get the card. So that is a card that asks very little of you, but can pay you back big time if built around. So we'll take the Rangers Refueler. I was so glad you said that, Paul. That's what I wanted to.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the Refueler, I would take the Scurryfoot. I think that's better than the Fang Guardian.
Okay.
And that's where I would be looking. But I think Refueler is good enough where you just take that instead.
All right. Intimidation Tactics, Ooze Patrol, Voyage Home, Reef Roads are the uncommons out of pack 1, pick 2. What else do we have here? There's a Gibberick Omnivore, Oil Gorger, Thopterus, Light Shield Parry. Not much. This pack's kind of mediocre. Yeah.
Yeah. I would consider just, we took that Refueler. I would consider taking that Voyage Home, just as just like, well, I mean, like, what are you taking here that's like above replacement level? Like Nimble Thopterist, I guess, is the other consideration.
Yeah, and it keeps you just in blue, but it's like so barely above replacement level that I'd rather speculate on a Voyage Home.
Just has so much more upside if you do end up in the blue-white artifacts deck.
Yeah, I think the only other consideration that I would have is like, do I want to take just a green card because that's where I'd like to end up with a Refueler? But the problem is Ooze Patrol and Omnivore aren't good enough for that, and it's too early to be like trying to engineer.
If I saw a Beast Rider Vanguard, I would probably just take that maybe. But I just think those other 2 were a little bit below. But now maybe we can consider going the other direction, right?
Well, yeah. So there's a Mimeoplasm at the Mythic Rare. There's also a Migrating Ketrodon in this pack. There's an Alacrian Armory, Wickerfolk Indomitable, Push the Limit.
Push it to the limit.
I guess we're not really there. And a Pit Automaton. That card actually did work at the PT.
It did. I feel like it's a little bit too early to take Pit Automaton.
There's a Keen Buccaneer too.
Yeah, so Keen Buccaneer works well with Rangers Refueler, but I do think it's significantly worse than Migrating Ketrodon.
Definitely.
So I feel like this is just kind of a place where you take the Ketrodon. If green is contested, so be it. But if it isn't, then we have a Migrating Ketrodon, which is a premium green common.
And if we can wheel the Automaton or the Buccaneer, that would be nice. Those are both cards
that would be great.
That I would love. Yeah. And that's
absolutely
2 kind of similar cards. All right, pack 1, pick 4, Bulwark Ox. Oh, it's your boy, Paul. There's Roadside Assistance, Nimble Thopterist. And there's a Velo Heart bike here as well. Marauding Mako, Crash and Burn in red.
Yeah, well, guess what, Marshall? White is open.
It is.
White is open, so this probably just, like, this is a telltale sign. Bulwark Ox is very good if you are a white deck, and getting it 4th pick means nobody's really interested in doing this. So I just feel like you probably take it here. We have the option of going green-white, blue-white, a lot of stuff still available, but I just think it's the best card in the pack. And taking this now while not having passed a ton of good white cards means we can get pretty set up for pack 2 as well. Like, what else are you going to... You can take the bike and try to just, like, solidify yourself in green.
I know. It's just like the bike is so not what you want to be doing that for. Although now that we say that, next pack 1, pick 5, there's a Dracosaur Auxiliary Hull Drifter, but there's another Migrating Ketrodon and a Venom Sac Lagak. So, these are, picking up another Ketrodon here, pretty good. And the fact that there's a Venom Sac here also means that green is at least not being like hard cut.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty decent sign. And there's nothing to say that we can't end up in green-white aggro. I think that's a totally fine archetype as well. But we're just, the Ketrodon, I think, is in general just a better card than the Lagak. But after picking up the second Ketrodon, if we have that pick again, we might want to take the Lagak, right? Just because of curve considerations.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean? The Ketrodon's a 2-drop, right?
Oh, that's right. You're right. I forgot.
Pack 1, pick 6. Ooh, Flood the Engine jumps off the screen. There's also a Spot Cycle Scouter and a Nesting Bot.
Yeah, and a Thunderhead, Gunner and a Veloheart bike. But I feel like we just take the Flood the Engine here. That just really shouldn't be in the pack this late. That's a good sign. We're not seeing a ton of great white cards here. The bike is also a consideration, but I like Flood the Engine as this is our first interactive spell too. Mm-hmm. And there's a weird world where even if we don't end up blue-green, it looks like we're going to be blue-green, but we can certainly splash the Refueler and the Flood the Engine if our mana is good enough.
Yeah, it's also like there's a little subtext to why Paul and I were so excited. Not just is Flood Engine's good, but it also backs up the potential for Ranger's Refueler to actually make it in our deck. Yep. Wow, pack 1, pick 7, bad. Radiant Lotus, Tune-Up, Oil Gorger, Broken Wings, like nothing obvious here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy playing the first copy of Broken Wings, so I actually think it's just the best card in this pack. So I'd probably just take it here. Yeah.
I mean, I know you're a big Radiant Lotus guy,
that's a little too deep for me. It's a little too deep for me.
Target player add 3 mana of the chosen color for each artifact sacrificed this way. Oh boy. We'll take Broken Wings. Next up, okay, Trip Up, Alacrian Jaguar, pro favorite camera launcher. Do we just take a Trip Up here?
Yeah, I think we just take a Trip Up. I don't love the card, but it's a fine filler level card. I was higher on it before, but I think now it's playing out more as a, C- level card that you will play.
D plus C- range rather than CC plus. Yeah.
Yeah, but not seeing a ton of the good artifact stuff. So feels like that's not necessarily on the table.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, next up we've got Gear Seeker Serpent, Guidelight Optimizer, and Stall Out. There's also Grim Javelineer, Gastel, Blockbuster, and a Scoured Barrens. Do we just take the Optimizer here?
Yeah, I think the Optimizer is fine. I've definitely played it in blue-green. If you have a bunch of things that cycle and exhaust cards, it's still a fine 2-mana play if you don't have enough 2-drops.
Yeah, I think it's an okay card. We'll take it. And pack 1, pick 10, we've got Reef Roads, Light Shield Parry, Ether Jacket, and Guidelight Matrix. So just take the road.
Still take the roads, yeah.
First one usually makes a cut.
Yeah, especially if you have some Veloheart bikes and such, and we already have the Ranger's Refueler.
We didn't wheel anything good out of our other pack, by the way, which is, mostly expected.
Yeah. Starting column, go deep.
Starting column, yeah. There's also an Alacrian Armory. I'm just going to take the column, I guess. Yeah,
it does look like this is going to be one of those drafts where we might need to get kind of creative here. Mm-hmm. Green's certainly being fought over. Oh, yeah, definitely take the Mako here. We do have a bunch of blue stuff.
We do.
if we get a Monument to Endurance, I could see making the pivot, especially because green is being heavily fought over. So I don't mind speculating on it. I think there's not a super high chance we play it, but there's a world.
Yeah, we've got Marauding Mako, Bulwark Ox, Guidelight Optimizer, Rangers Refueler, Flood the Engine, Broken Wings, Starting Column, kind of Trip Up, Migrating Ketradon ×2, a Voyage Home, and a Reef Roads. Pack 2, pick 1. Our rare is Bloodghast again. We've also got Sundial, Dawn Tyrant, Apocalypse Runner, Rangers Ether Hive, Rocky Roads, and then
it's kind of a rough pack.
Howler's heavy. Yeah. Do we just try to get stubborn and take the Rangers Ether Hive here?
Well, yeah, there's nothing. The thing is, white didn't seem that open after pack 1.
No.
So if I wanted to be white, I would take the Sundial here.
Mm-hmm.
But based on, this is not an exciting pick because we only have one exhaust card, but it definitely has the highest upside if we can pick up and try to prioritize some cards that have exhaust.
Yeah. So we'll do that. I mean, if you ask me where I'd want to be in this draft, it would be blue-green. That's where we have the highest concentration of picks. It just feels like green is precarious. Maybe not. Pack 2, pick 2, Regal Imperiosaur and an Autarch Mammoth. Up in that upper range, there's a Midnight Mangler, a Spin Out, Rides End, Dune Drifter, Push the Limit. Can I just take the Mammoth?
I like the Mammoth more than the Imperiosaur personally.
I do too.
You just play that thing and it's huge. Now we do have the 2 Ketradons, but they cycle, so it's not too bad.
And we have a Starting Column, Paul. So we're turn 5 Mammoth.
Oh, we got ramp.
Turn 5 Mammoth.
Starting Column is, if you don't have bikes, I guess Starting Column is something that you can play in a pinch, right?
Horrible replacement for a Velohard bike, but okay, well, we'll take the Mammoth pack 2, pick 2.
Mammoth is great.
Yeah, so we got Rangers, Ether Hive, and Autarch Mammoth on our first 2 picks out of the second pack. Those are powerful cards. Next up, Mendicant Core, Embalmed Ascendant, Boosted Sloop, Reef Roads. Oh, there's a Hazard of the Dunes here.
Well, easy Hazard of the Dunes
here. I'm like looking at the rest of the pack. There's a Loxodon Surveyor, Stall Out, Hull Drifter, but yeah, very easy hazard. I think it also goes well in our curve.
Yeah, so the thing that we're looking at now is probably just to make sure that we have enough cheap things to play. Right now, we're looking at the Refueler is not like an ideal blocker early, so we just have to be very, very mindful of that. So I think moving forward, if we have a close pick, we should choose to take the cheaper card here just for the mana curve.
Yeah, we've got double Migrating Ketradon and Autarch Mammoth, and now a Hazard of the Dunes, and that is putting our creatures kind of on the heavier end of the spectrum here. Okay, this is a decent one. We've got Trade the Helm, Bounce Off, Midnight Mangler, which I think we'd actually play. And there's also a Stall Out, a Lacrian Jaguar, and a Silken Strength. Just a Bounce Off here?
Yeah, I think it's just a Bounce Off. Really, really solid removal spell. This is the comment that has the highest discrepancy at win rate between normal players and top level players. This is like the second or third best common for top rated players. Wow. And then it's kind of above average common for just the average 17 lands user. So just this card is very good, but you need to be very selective with how you actually use this card.
And don't be the first it rewards you.
Exactly.
Okay. Pack 2, pick 5. We got another Bounce Off. There's also a Nimble Thopterus and a Lacrian Jaguar. Outside of our colors, there's also not much. There's a Gastel Raider.
Yeah, I think I would probably look to take the second Bounce Off, but once I do, probably not interested in a third one. It's kind of where I'm at.
The other option is actually Tranquil Cove. We still have Voyage Home kind of.
Yeah, I just feel like we're not going to have enough playables. It's my
definitely
fear.
A problem. Yeah,
it's my fear.
So let's go with Bounce Off.
Yeah, just because if it was a worse common.
Oh,
what?
Pack 2, pick 6, River Churn Monument. There's even a Flood the Engine. Oh, man.
That goes well with Bounce Off because you can use the Bounce Off as a way to survive before you kill them with River Churn Monument. There's a Flood the Engine in this pack too.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now we really want cheap creatures to block.
Yeah, we're the manglers or whatever. Like
Gibberic Omnivores, Venom Sac, Legax,
block.
Like all that stuff. Wow.
I mean, your one of your recent videos said that's the best millstone ever, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It really is. Pack 2, pick 7. This one's interesting. There's a Veloheart bike. There's also a diversion unit and a Keen Buccaneer.
I think I just take the 2-drop. You just got to be responsible with your curve.
Yeah, the Buccaneer fits a little better, but yeah.
Yeah, the Keen Buccaneer is better with the refueler and the Ether Hive, but we just, like, this deck has really great late game. I don't care as much about the synergies here. Oh my gosh.
Oh, a Pack 2, pick 8 Stampeding Scurryfoot. What happened?
Wow, we are getting super rewarded here. That's ridiculous.
I saw the pothole mole and I was like, nice. And then next to it is the Stampeding Scurryfoot. Literal perfects for us. I mean, we wanted cheap creatures with exhaust, and that's the best one.
Yeah, it started out kind of rough, but the end of Pack 2 has been incredible. Getting Scurryfoot, Diversion Unit, and River Turn Monument pick 6, 7, 8 in Pack 2 is unbelievable.
Ludicrous.
Yeah.
Pack 2, pick 9. We'll pick up a Howler's Heavy, aka Fog.
Fog. Hey, for our River Turn Monument deck,
Turbo
I like
Mill. Oh, and we wheeled the Midnight Mangler too. Pack 2, pick 10. That's actually good in this deck.
Right. If we don't have enough things to play early, we will happily put this in our deck. Absolutely.
It's a removal spell, Paul.
There you go.
Blue Doomblade.
It's a poor person's Venom Sack Legak.
It is. It's exactly what it is. And then, all right, Pack 2, pick 11, Stall Out, Hull Drifter, Reef Roads.
Just take the Hull Drifter, probably.
Sure. We don't have anything that's really dedicated to that. Stall Out would probably make the cut too. It is good with the Millstone. Oh, nice. Pack 2, pick 12, another Midnight Mangler.
We're just mono blue.
We're mono blue manglers right now.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Okay.
No, our green cards are good enough, right?
No, they are.
Oh,
you know what would be?
Man.
Oh, wow.
I don't understand how the second half of this pack was just straight up better than the first half, but we got
insane.
A Nimble Thopterus now with one card
blue.
left in the pack after that. Like, that's ridiculous.
I would love a Guidelight Pathmaker here as a way to search for the River Turn Monument, but
Oh, yeah, that's cool. All right, pack 3, pick 1. Roadside Blowout, Fang Druid Summoner, Migrating Ketradon, Hazard of the Dunes. Wow, there's also...
We don't have anything to search, right, with the Fang Druid Summoner?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
So probably not the pick here. I would lean towards something... I would... Like, for example, between Ketradon and Hazard, I think I go with the Hazard here.
Because 2 of each is nice.
Yeah, and I think I honestly think I just like that more than the Roadside Blowout.
I do too here. Yeah,
So,
because our deck is taking a long game defensive stance style approach right now, and a card like Hazard of the Dunes is like the best common speed bump outside of like the Rat. Oh, pack 3, pick 2. We just got past Aganosaur Rex.
This is a really weird draft, but whatever.
And we're going to wheel another Midnight Mangler, Paul, and we're going to play all of them.
Probably won't even need to play them.
If this deck gets to turn 6, it's over, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And we would have already cast like Hazard, Aganosaur Rex, Migrating Ketradon or whatever.
Yeah. Our late game is insane.
Wow. There's a Stall Out here too, just for reference. Is Starting Column... Still
probably not making it in. Probably not making it in.
Because we do have a heavy curve, but it's so bad.
Yeah, there's plenty of cards to cut at this point.
Wow, these packs have been dope ever since like halfway through pack 2. Pack 3, pick 3, Thopter Fabricator, and there's a Roadside Blowout here, and a Keen Buccaneer, and a Venom Sack Legak.
This is actually really tough.
This is because we both know that we're supposed to take the Legak here and take our vegetables, but these
I don't think the Fabricator
awesome.
does. I don't think the Fabricator does much, right? Like it, like we don't have any card draw really.
Yeah, just the Drifter.
So I think it's
but
probably
I really like Blowout.
Yeah, I like the Blowout, but I feel like we just want like a Death Touch creature.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Like we just honestly, our late game is just so good. Like, because the thing is, the Legak is so much better than Mangler.
Oh no! Paul,
hold on,
Paul, your Guidelight Pathmaker just showed up.
All right, hey, let's have some fun.
Yeah,
that's another 6-drop.
Yeah, I mean, we could. So the question, of course, is what would we take otherwise? There is
nothing, right?
LOL, another Midnight Mangler. There's another Broken Wings. We wouldn't play the second copy. So remember, this is traditional also.
Yeah, we're not losing out. Oh, right. that does make it so that potentially we could take Broken Wings number 2. But
no.
But come on, don't you want to
No.
search out a River Churn Monument?
I do. Oh my God.
Up.
And now a stock up. Speaking of searching out, pack 3, pick 5 stock up over Glitch Ghost Surveyor and Camera Launcher.
This thing is sweet.
Lord.
I'm glad we took the Legac Marshall.
Yeah, those are the vegetables we needed for sure.
Yeah. Now I want some lands. Like if we can find some lands, because all of a sudden, at first it looked like we weren't getting enough playables. Now we have to make a bunch of cuts.
Yep.
So if we can, at this point, our deck is almost set. So if just more cheap things or, oh, wow.
Transit Mage? Is there
I don't think we have any targets. We have just a Hull Drifter, right?
Yeah.
So I probably don't take that. I probably just take Beast Rider Vanguard.
Yeah, that seems fine. We wanted 2s anyway. There's an Oil Deep Gear Hook, a Transit Mage, and there is a 3rd bounce off. This is the type of deck that I would consider playing a 3rd bounce off, but I'd rather have a solid 2-drop over it, and I'm not going to prioritize it. Oh, Thornwood Falls. Oh, and a pack 3, pick 7 Venom Sac Legac.
I think we have enough creatures.
For
let's look at our 2-drop.
We've got Diversion Unit, Optimizer, 2 Manglers, the Refueler, the Monument, so those don't count, and then Vanguard.
I think I would take the land here. Just like especially if we're looking to splash, like we just want good mana. We have double blue cards, double green cards. So
pack 3, pick 8. I guess there is the 3rd bounce off. I doubt it would make the cut, given that we have to cut a bunch of cards.
But maybe you can sideboard it in.
Yeah, against certain matchups.
Like
I'm going to put it on the board.
If they have Sky Streak Engineer's perfect.
It is.
Like we have exhaust payoff cards too. That's just
there's exactly a Fang Druid Summoner that wheel. This is pack 3, pick 9. So that's a bummer because that is a really good card, but we just don't have any targets. So take the Engineer. Wow, we really did fill out those 2s. And the Mangler did come back, pack 3, pick 10. There's also a stall out.
I mean, they're both. We're
Super
probably
mediocre.
not playing either of those cards.
I'll take the stall out because we've already got 2 Manglers. Oh my God, Paul.
Is it the Buccaneer?
The Buccaneer and the Roadside Blowout here.
I wonder if it's the Buccaneer because we have the Refueler plus we have the Ranger's Ether Hive.
I think so.
Yeah.
I love a Roadside Blowout, but I cannot believe we wheeled that.
We also don't have a bunch of 3-mana creatures if you actually look at our deck. So
okay, last couple of picks are nothing. Wow. What a roller coaster ride that draft was. That did not go how I thought it would. It went way better.
No.
But
it looked like we were going to have to scrap for playables, and now it doesn't look like we do.
So,
we've
got 46 cards, but there's the first big stopping point or starting point is, do we want to splash white? We have Guidelight, Pathmaker, and Voyage Home.
I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think so either. And we did not pick up any actual fixing. We picked up the stupid starting column. Yeah. If we had a Veloheart bike, I probably actually would go for the Pathmaker and then we could look at things on the Voyage Home. But we don't. And we don't have any other way to fix.
Also, if we had... If our late game wasn't already so good, I would take it. Like, let's say we had only 1 Ketradon at the top end of our curve. Yeah. Then I would be more inclined to look for more things to do in the late game. But with Mammoth, double Ketradon, Aganosaur Rex, right? Like we just have so much action in the late game where I just don't think adding another 6-mana card and then also forcing ourselves to play starting column is necessarily what we want to do.
Agreed. And, even after I just cut the white cards, we still have 44 cards here. So we've still got some work to do. This also gives us really nice mana. Like we have a Thornwood Falls and a relatively even distribution of colors on top of it. We're heavier blue at the beginning, but our double greens don't come until the 5 and 6 drop slot. So our mana looks pretty, right? Like there's a lot of little bonuses here. So right now we've got double bounce off, Stampeding Scurryfoot. I would say that those are going to make the cut regardless. We do have a 3rd bounce off that I have in the sideboard already. So keep that in mind. And then we have Diversion Unit, Guidelight, Optimizer, which I think I would put in the maybe pile here. I would put one of the Midnight Manglers in the maybe even both. Ranger's Refueler, River Churn Monument, Skystreak Engineer, Beast Rider, Vanguard, Venom Sac Legac, all good. Flood the Engine, that Keen Buccaneer, I think is going to be clutch. That was a tough pick, but I do think it's going to be good. Stock up Do we main deck the Broken Wings in best of 3 and then Rangers Aether Hive? I'll put Broken Wings in the maybe pile just so we can consider it. 4s, we've got a Howler's Heavy, a Nimble Thopterus, a Trip Up, and 2 Hazard of the Dune. So there's something that can get cut there. And then there's a Hull Drifter, a Gonosaur Rex, and then Untouchable, 2 Migrating Ketrodon, and an Autarch Mammoth. And then we're on 17 lands currently. Looking at it right now, I have 4 cards to the side. I have Double Midnight Mangler, Broken Wings, Guidelight Optimizer. I think I'd rather cut like the Heavy or the Trip Up or the Thopterus, like one of these 4s, and keep Broken Wings.
I like Broken Wings just because we are pretty light on interaction. We have the 2 bounce offs, Flood the Engine, and the Broken Wings there. So I think that's correct. And then as far as one of the 2 mana creatures, I think I want to play the Optimizer over the Manglers just because we have mana sinks, right? Like we just have, a River Turn Monument, Rangers Refueler, Hazard of the Dunes, Keen Buccaneer. There's just like a bunch of things there. Probably cut the
Heavy
Howler. The Nimble Thopterus also isn't particularly strong, so that's
right.
Those are options. And then the question is, do you want to play the Hull Drifter here? Do you think that's necessary? How much card draw does this deck have? And I guess our creature count is pretty high.
I think it's so 15. It's 14.
14, okay. And then if we cut the Howler's Heavy, then that's going to be 13.
Yeah, I cut the Thopterist, so the Heavy's still in currently, and we could definitely cut it.
Yeah.
That's tough. Yeah, I like the Howler's Heavy because it has the opportunity to get a 2-for-1 every once in a while. We've got Venom Sac Lagak and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I think you could consider Trip Up or Hull Drifter as like what you want to cut here.
I think I'll
Trip
cut
Up still
the Hull Drifter.
Trip Up. Yeah, Trip Up still seems pretty nice just to have some kind of good instant speed interactive card to go along with. How many exhaust cards are we looking at right now?
Yeah, let's take a look. We've got the Rangers Refueler. We have the River Turn Monument, kind of, although ideally the game
you
ends
win the
then.
game.
Engineer, so that's 3. Buccaneer, 4.
2 hazards.
And then 2 hazards, so 6.
Okay. Yeah, I like the low part of the curve, so I don't think I want to touch that, right? Like this gives us access to 5 creatures that cost 2 that can block, along with the Stampeding Scurryfoot, and then Rangers Refueler if we can find a way to crew that up as well. So it really just comes down to, I really think, some combination of Howler's Heavy, Trip Up, Hull Drifter, Nimble Thopterist.
Right.
You can kind of pick your poison with what you want there.
Right. That's the thing. The one thing I do like about Nimble Thopterist in a deck like this is that it does create, it's good at blocking, basically, like it keeps you alive for a turn. And if you are on the River Turn Monument on turn 2 plan, that matters a lot. But the Howler's Heavy, I think, has a higher upside overall. Where you can get a card and win a combat or, kill a run over or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's close.
Do we just cut Trip Up? Do we just cut Trip Up?
We're on 40. We're on 40 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a question of saying,
you're almost talking me into playing the Nimble Thopterist here. Just because if that's just like, if our plan does, it crews the Rangers Aether Hive pretty well. I guess it doesn't really crew that many other things.
Right.
This also just seems totally fine, actually.
Yeah, and this is best of 3, so we do have the ability to adjust. All right, we'll lock this one in. This is blue-green exhaust-ish. It's really just raw power level with like a slight exhaust thing going. Double bounce off, Stampeding Scurryfoot at the 1. Then Diversion Unit, Guidelight Optimizer, Rangers Refueler, River Turn Monument. How did we get that? Skystreak Engineer, Beast Rider Vanguard, and Venom Sac Lagak at 2. So our 2s went from being like sketchy to freaking robust real quick.
Right.
Then we've got Flood the Engine, Keen Buccaneer, Stock Up, Broken Wings in the main, even in best of 3. We're a little light on interaction. Rangers Aether Hive. And then the 4s are currently Howler's Heavy, Trip Up, and 2 Hazard of the Dunes, though the Howler's Heavy and the Trip Up could easily be like a Nimble Thopterist. and a Hull Drifter or something like that, if we wanted to switch it around. And then our 5 is a Gonosaur freaking Rex. And then our 6s are 2 Migrating Ketrodon and an Autarch Mammoth. And then we've got 7 islands, a Reef Road, 8 forests, and a Thornwood Falls.
Yeah, no, this deck looks excellent. This deck looks excellent.
Dude,
it just kind of has
so sweet.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the better blue-green decks that I've seen recently once people have made the adjustments, right?
Yeah,
where
this is
like you don't
Yeah.
Look at the top end. Our top end is amazing.
Totally.
And then we also just randomly have a River Churn Monument in there that has proven itself to be one of the better closers in the entire set. So yeah, this has a good curve, good late game, some card draw as well. Like there's just really not much to hate about this deck.
No. And by the way, the party note here about this deck is this is a good example of sometimes when you lose to somebody else, right? And you feel like you couldn't have done anything else. When this deck draws the powerful end of its curve, which is most of the cards, but there's definitely particular cards. If you go a Gonosaur Rex into Autarch Mammoth, or if you go Hazard into Rex into Mammoth, it's just like that is so much raw power to dump on an opposing deck that like it's overwhelming, right? And this is what one of those decks looks like, that just has an very high average power level. It has some synergies that are cute, but this isn't really about that. This isn't like, oh, we drafted the ultimate exhaust deck. This is individual card power being better than what your opponent's doing over and over and over. I mean, if we pick random cards, it can be nasty, right? Stampeding Scurryfoot, this is just assuming some type of curve. I'll go easy and say Venom Sacklagak, then like stock up Hazard of the Dunes, Rex. Like these are just like absurd cards, right? Flood the Engine, it's just like, dang, right? Like I'm not going to beat some of these cards. They're just so powerful,
Yeah, totally agree. This deck. So let's see, what was it? The Rakdos deck we said was probably maybe a 4 to 5 win deck. This is best of 3, so it's a little bit different. But I would say that this deck is probably good enough to be in that 2-1 to 3-0 range.
Yeah, this is a 2.5 win deck for sure. Like,
because nothing is a true 3-0.
No, that's not.
I
really
would be disappointed if I went 1-2 with this deck.
Oh, I'm going to be disappointed if I don't get to 3-0. This deck's really strong. I won't be surprised. Right. It's still Magic. Like you sometimes just don't hit your third land drop, or your opponent has just this nasty curve and it didn't matter what you played. Sometimes you make mistakes, etc. But like this is definitely a deck capable of a 3-0. Like for sure. Absolutely. This is a deck that could do that. Okay, let's call it a show there, Paul. Great stuff as always. If you want to find us on social media, I'm Marshall_LR and Paul is Haumph. Pretty much everywhere you can find everything related to the podcast over at lrcast.com. We'd like to thank our supporters on Patreon and our sponsor, Ultimate Guard, for supporting the show. And with that, we'll see you next week. Paul, do you have your sights on any particular food in Portland?
I actually haven't looked too much. My plan is to look soon. Also, I don't really know where exactly in Portland I'm going to be.
Okay.
So like, I don't really have my bearings there. Like I'm staying at some hotel that was a school. It's like peak Portland.
Oh, wow.
It's like a nice hotel, but it used to, but like they call it a school. McMenamins or something. I don't know.
Am I going to see you again, Paul? That sounds haunted. Like,
I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's look. They all set me up. They told me that's a hotel I should stay. So I'm excited just to check out Portland. Portland does have lots of good food. So I'm hopefully it's in a better area, because there are some areas in Portland where I'm like, oof, that can be kind of rough. But I imagine everything there is going to be nice and safe and good. So I'm just excited. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great food. We've had some really good Thai food there.
Yeah,
but I don't know what's open or what's available.
Okay, well,
what was that place we went to? There was like
there's that chicken. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, I can't remember what vibe that was, but that place was pretty good. I remember liking it. I mean, it was all a blur. We went to like 3 restaurants in one day.
We probably every time we go to Portland, I think we probably consume minimum 4,000 calories that day.
Especially because we went to the ice cream place. Like that was
Oh, salt and straw?
Yeah, salt and straw. That was
Yeah.
that was a choice we made.
Yeah.
Okay, well we'll get the food report from you next week then.
Oh, yes. I'll send you pictures. Don't worry.
Yeah.